Cleveland's East Side is home to several well-known institutions such as the Cleveland Museum of Art, the Cleveland Clinic, and Case Western Reserve University. Also on the East Side are several Black neighborhoods that Cleveland planning groups tried and failed to revitalize during the era of urban renewal in the 50s and 60s. The implementation of urban renewal plans in the East Side of Cleveland demonstrates the social significance of urban renewal nationally because the displacement and neglect of Black urban residents greatly impeded Cleveland's status as the safest location in the nation. This little-known history of urban planning is relevant today because the East Side of Cleveland still carries the stigma that comes with this story. In this short film, I will recount the details of the University-Euclid Urban Renewal Project in Cleveland in order to shed light on the necessary balance between supporting underprivileged groups and advancing urban culture and sociality. Before problems began to arise, Huff was an ethnically diverse neighborhood and home to working-class immigrants mainly from Eastern Europe and the Black community. During the 1930s, Huff began to see an influx of migrants coming in from the South or from people displaced from other nearby Cleveland neighborhoods. Overcrowding was on the rise, and by the 1950s, the problem was becoming much harder to ignore. While Huff began to deteriorate, Cleveland was focused on advancing anything but the overcrowded neighborhoods. Symptoms of blight ran rampant, while Cleveland-based companies were continuing to market the city with phrases such as the best location in the nation. The plans for urban renewal of the East Side neighborhoods will further reveal this intention and how it was prioritized over safety and well-being of Huff's residents. The University-Euclid Urban Renewal Plan was proposed in 1960 by the Cleveland Development Foundation. In an effort to quell the growing overcrowding problem in Huff, the plan focused on 1,400 acres surrounding University Circle and the Huff neighborhood. Huff was to be raised with other housing developments put in place for the residents, and institutions such as the Cleveland Clinic were to be expanded. The symptoms of blight identified in Huff included neglect in property maintenance, overcrowding, traffic congestion, illegal property conversions, and more. Essentially, the plan was to improve the social, cultural, and economic areas of the neighborhood in addition to the residential areas. The project was Cleveland's first major attempt at addressing the growing challenges of race and poverty in Huff. The first plans for the University-Euclid Urban Renewal Project were published in 1961 by the Cleveland Planning Commission. These plans included actions such as acquisition, clearance, sale, and reuse of property, vacation and dedication of public rights-of-way, public works, private rehabilitation, and controls and restrictions, according to the Commission. The proposed land use on this map clearly denotes sections for residential accommodations, business, and institutional developments in regards to Case Western Reserve's campus. Many maps were created to plan between the existing land use and the proposed land use. This existing land use map has significantly fewer recreational and residential areas. The urban renewal plan was designed to be transformational to the area with intense redesigning and rejuvenation. This much was evident in the projected $16 million price tag of the entire project. By 1963, this particular renewal plan was one of the largest by area, with the Erie View plan also being quite large. There were neighborhood rehabilitation projects happening just outside of Huff, but the renewal plan for Huff was much more severe in what was taken down. Despite acquiring much of the land, the project eventually stalled and many buildings were left abandoned and vacant. This added to the already increasing racial tensions between Black residents and the city of Cleveland, and many residents of Huff found themselves displaced. As the urban renewal in University Circle and Huff began to stall, riots were breaking out in major cities across the country. These riots were referred to as national wake-up calls to get a handle on failing neighborhoods. By 1965, frustration in Huff grew large enough that people started to speak out. A few protesters went as far as to dump dead rats on the front of steps of Cleveland City Hall. This prompted the Civil Rights Commission to begin an investigation in Cleveland, but it was too little too late. Soon after this, violence broke out in Huff and would last for about a week. On July 18, 1966, what started as a brawl quickly escalated into a full-blown riot once the police arrived. The riots destroyed numerous buildings in its wake, and the National Guard was eventually called to quell the violence. The riots had several impacts on the urban renewal process, such as by halting expansion plans for the Cleveland Clinic. During the conflicts, newspapers like The Plain Dealer provided updates about who was arrested, how many people were arrested, and what their sentence was. The media appeared to be reporting more on the aspects of the tragedies of the riots and violence and glazing over why they were happening. The response from the mayor of Cleveland at the time, Ralph S. Locker, was a peace program to establish a symbolic treaty between Black residents and the government. To address problems in Huff, a meeting between civic leaders was conducted without the attendance of Mayor Locker, but he was presented with the details of the deterioration that led to this breaking point. In the wake of the Huff Riots, Cleveland faced harsh criticism over its failure to effectively address its urban crisis. The local newspapers complained that the urban renewal projects created more problems than they fixed. Even with all the funding granted to complete this project, the project appeared to destroy more residential areas than create, and the Commission on Civil Rights agreed that the University-Euclid project exacerbated the already poor conditions in Huff. A 1965 interim report stated that the project had successfully achieved new sidewalks, street lamps, and accelerated demolition, all of which had been referred to as real progress. In 1967, the University-Euclid Urban Renewal Plan was revitalized to bring actual progress like recreational sites in order to prevent more violence. The 16-point plan for University-Euclid details updated plans to make sure all relocated families have housing and immediate recreational development plans. The recreation projects that were completed include baseball diamonds, bike hills, and basketball courts. The recreation developments were successful in Huff and was certainly a meaningful change that came out of this tumultuous planning era. However, the problem of appropriate housing was yet to be solved, leaving Cleveland's next mayor to try to pick up the pieces. After Mayor Locker, Mayor Carl Stokes was elected into office in 1967 as Cleveland's first black mayor and one of the first black mayors of major cities. Mayor Stokes campaigned heavily on the idea of giving Cleveland a much-needed Renaissance era. He believed he had what it took to fix the urban crisis and keep Cleveland thriving. While Clevelanders were beginning to question the safety and quality of life in downtown Cleveland, advertisements like this started to appear as an attempt to convince the public that Cleveland was a great place to live. Stokes unveiled his program, Cleveland Now, which aimed to bring relief to suffering areas and brought in over $1.5 billion from sponsors and donors. Cleveland Now convinced many residents and companies not to move out of Cleveland, and many people had hope in Mayor Stokes. However, like University-Euclid, change did not happen quickly enough, and a shootout broke out in a neighborhood nearby to Huff called Glenville in 1968. In response, Mayor Stokes called in the National Guard and only permitted black police officers to patrol Glenville. This second bout of violence in Cleveland was further proof of the failure to fix the urban crisis. Eventually, ground was broken for duplexes in Huff in 1969, which was at that point 3 years post-Huff Riots. While the University-Euclid Renewal Plan failed black residents and others, it did succeed in expanding the Cleveland Clinic and bettering the other nearby cultural institutions. However, the east side of Cleveland still holds a lot of stigma as being unsafe or ghetto. In 1970, black populations remained densely concentrated on the east side, and today, black Clevelanders still occupy most of the area aside from the museum districts. Ultimately, many families were displaced for a project that never fulfilled all it was supposed to do, and Cleveland's reputation still carries that tarnished image. In Cleveland today, the city's county declared racism a public health crisis in 2020. In the east side specifically, black residents are living an average of 6 years less than white residents. This, along with other health issues that disproportionately affect black residents, is driven by the systematic unequal access to basic needs due to social and environmental factors. This is no doubt due in part to the inability to fix the problems in Huff and the other black neighborhoods in Cleveland.